The ranch in Australia is quiet now. Too quiet for a man who spent his life on sets with 200 people waiting for his word. Mel Gibson sits there alone most days, and the silence has a way of asking questions that crowds never do. He grew up in a house where love had a price tag. Peekskill, New York, then Australia when he was 12. His father was the kind of man who believed that speaking your mind was rebellion and obedience was the highest form of virtue. A child in that house learned very quickly that being good was safer than being honest. Mel found acting because acting was the one place where the rules of his father's house didn't reach. On a stage, he could say anything and be forgiven for it. Off a stage, forgiveness was not something his father dealt in. Drama school in Sydney. A small role. Then Mad Max turned a 23-year-old nobody into a face the world couldn't stop staring at. It happened so fast that he didn't have time to become the person who could handle it. That is when he met Rosalind Moore. She wasn't in the business. She was a nurse, someone whose job required her to hold the hands of dying strangers and not ask for anything in return. They married in 1980. She was 25. He was becoming a commodity that belonged to millions of people. 3 decades. 7 children. A ranch that was supposed to be the kind of life his father would have approved of, steady, faithful, the kind of permanence you build by showing up every single morning and choosing the same person again. But the man who could play a fearless warrior on screen was terrified of the quiet commitment that marriage demands. The scandals didn't creep. They exploded. The arrest. The recordings. The words that turned allies into people who crossed the street to avoid him. Hollywood didn't withdraw. It punished. And punishment is not the same as silence. Punishment is an active thing, a door locked from the outside while you stand there holding money nobody wants to take. So he built his own door. Passion of the Christ. Self-funded. Self-directed. The highest-grossing independent film ever made. He proved he didn't need the system. But he couldn't prove he didn't need Rosalind. And through every phase, the rise, the fall, the comeback that nobody thought possible, she was the only person who stayed. The constant in a life built on variables. The one person who looked at him when the world had decided he wasn't worth the conversation. She filed for divorce in 2009. 28 years. 7 children. Every excuse the world handed her and every reason she found to leave anyway. He rebuilt his career. He didn't rebuild the marriage. Not from lack of trying. From the simple fact that some doors stay closed no matter how many times you knock. At 70, he admitted the one thing he couldn't outrun. That she was it. Not the movies. Not the money. Not the vindication that came when people eventually decided he'd suffered enough. The nurse who was there before the fame arrived and stayed through the destruction and left when the destruction became too heavy for one person to carry. He still works. Still directs. Still the same stubborn man who refuses to be told no. Still surrounded by people who respect his genius and are paid not to challenge his worst instincts. But the ranch is quiet. And the person who used to fill that silence is the one he thinks about when the cameras go dark and there's nobody left on set to tell him what to do next. If you want more real stories, the kind that go past the headlines and into the truth, subscribe to this channel. Because every famous face has a story that deserves to be told honestly.